Good day everyone. This is video lesson in ITEP 101 or Human-to-Computer Interaction. This video lesson will cover the second part of Module 1, which is the lesson entitled Human Factors Information. The topics here include what human factors is, the aims of ergonomics, ergonomics domain of specialization, the process of ergonomics, the ergonomics in UI design, specifically the design principles and the design guidelines. Let us discuss what human factors is. Human factors is also referred to as ergonomics. As defined here, it is the scientific discipline concerned with the understanding of interactions among humans and other elements of a system, and the profession that applies theory, principles, data, and methods to design in order to optimize human well-being and overall system performance. Human factors design or people-centered design specifically focuses on improving areas within a product or design where interaction happens. Examples include when you use a touchscreen smartphone and when you perform tasks on your desktop computer. The goal is to reduce the number of mistakes that users make and produce more comfortable interactions with a product. Human factors design is about understanding human capabilities and limitations and then applying this knowledge to product design. It is also a combination of many disciplines, including psychology, sociology, engineering, and industrial design. Ergonomics is about designing for people, defined as the science of fitting a workplace to the user's needs. Ergonomics aims to increase efficiency and productivity and reduce comfort. The benefits of ergonomics can appear in many different forms: in productivity and quality, in safety and health, in reliability, in job satisfaction, and in personal development. So there are several aims of ergonomics. First is for safety and health. Ergonomics can roughly be defined as the study of people in their working environment. More specifically, an ergonomist designs or modifies the work to fit the worker, not the other way around. The goal is to eliminate discomfort and risk of injury due to work. Second is for productivity and efficiency. The main goal of ergonomics is to make the workplace efficient, to provide an easier working experience to all employees. Ergonomic practices in the workplace optimize employee interactions and make performing duties efficient and easy. For reliability and quality, which is the third aim of ergonomics, this goes by the thought that only by optimizing the intersection of the work environment and the worker can you produce the best quality product in an efficient and scalable way. Fourth, we have job satisfaction and personal development. Who would not want to be satisfied in their job, and who would not want to have or to be developed in your workplace? Ergonomic intervention has improved the level of job satisfaction and employee retention. As the amount of time employees spend at their desk increases, the musculoskeletal discomfort and other health issues associated with the office environment also gets increased. So by applying ergonomics in the workplace, an employee can, or even an employer, can get more satisfied in doing what they have to do in the workplace. According to the International Ergonomics Association, there are three broad domains of ergonomics. So we have physical, cognitive, and organizational. So let's talk about the physical ergonomics. Physical ergonomics is concerned with the human anatomical, anthropometric, physiological, and biomechanical characteristics as they relate to physical activity. This is the ergonomics domain we are most concerned with in the workplace. So when you say anatomical, It's relating to bodily structure. So we have to consider the structure of the body. When you say anthropometric, it defines the physical measures of a person's size, form, and functional capacities. When you speak about physiological, it is relating to the branch of biology that deals with the normal functions of living organisms and their parts. While for biomechanic is the study of biological systems, particularly their structure and function, using methods derived from mechanics, which is concerned with the effects that forces have on the motion of bodies. So everything that relates to the human movement and structure is concerned with how we deal with physical ergonomics. So here is an example. There is a proper ergonomics in a person and as he or she interacts with the computer. So even the height of the chair and the tilt of the back of the chair and even the distance of the eyes to the monitor and the tilt of the monitor itself, as well as what is the proper degree where the wrist will be more comfortable when the user uses the keyboard. Also, there are people who would deal with using computers with them standing. So there's also a proper structure for that and even measurements for that specific purpose. Now let's proceed to the third type of ergonomics or the third domain of ergonomics, and that is the cognitive ergonomics. Cognitive ergonomics is concerned with mental processes such as perception, memory, reasoning, and motor response as they affect interactions among humans and other elements of a system. This is the domain related to human-to-computer interaction. So, there is a specific way on how our eyes is more comfortable in dealing with the user interface. So there's such thing as the bad user experience and a good user experience depending on the design of that particular user interface. So there are several factors on why a bad user experience is bad, and there's also a reason why a good user experience is good, because it should match the requirement of the user who would use the interface. As you can see here, the photos here are bigger as compared to the first screen. And the number of lines for a user to read is fewer in a good user experience than that of a UI that has several lines to read. Okay, so there's a psychology behind this. And that's what human-to-computer interaction is all about. Knowing your user and designing the system according to your user or according to human who will use the computer. So now that what's in is mobile applications, there are also bad navigation and good navigation, or even how the menu is presented or how the UI is presented using a mobile user interface. So you have here a comparison between visible navigation and the hamburger menu. In the visible navigation, you have all the menus on top. But what if you have 6 menus? So it's going to be crowded here. And it has the tendency to make your user confused with what's happening or how to navigate the user interface that you have designed for them. While for your hamburger menu, all you have to do is to show this icon and then they can click that and then the menu will be shown for how many menus or how many items in that menu can be listed. It's quite not limited as compared to this design of menus. So this hamburger menu increases conversion rate. When you say conversion rate, if you want your users to, or if your system is designed to sell something, then a conversion rate would be a user who navigates the product into buying that product. Well, if this is the UI of an application, it has a tendency for the user to leave that page and move on to another seller or another system that has a better user interface design. So the last domain of ergonomics that we will discuss is what we call organizational ergonomics. As you can see here, it is concerned with the optimization of socio-technical systems, including their organizational structures, policies, and processes. So from the term itself, the organization is being redesigned, redefined, or re-engineered in order for the people to, or the employees and the employers to work together for a better outcome, and also in order for the workers or the company to serve their clients better. So you will redesign or redefine something in the organization in order for the company to thrive more. So when you say organizational ergonomics, it considers the structures, the policies, the processes of any organization. The goal of organizational ergonomics is to achieve a harmonized system, taking into consideration the consequences of technology on human relationships, processes, and organization. Basically, the goal of organizational ergonomics is the attainment of a fully harmonized work system that ensures employee job satisfaction and commitment. It also includes the study of technology's consequences on human relationships, processes, and institutions. As an example, I have seen one of my classmates during college, and their company would always have team outing. So it is because, mental health is really important than, earning so much and yet you haven't taken care of your mental health. So even organizations and companies have designed or redesigned the organization or the processes in that organization in order to cater for the needs of the employees and even for the needs of their clients. I remember an email from a bank during my birthday. They sent me an email and it made me feel special, even if with that simple gesture. But they have organized their company in such a way that the clients will appreciate them more. So there are really endless possibilities on how to make that particular organization serve better the clients and even the employees in order for them to provide a better service. So next, let's proceed to discussing about the process of ergonomics. There are 4 steps in the process of ergonomics: assess risk, plan improvements, measure progress, and scale solutions. So let's discuss each. So you have here the ergonomics process. By the way, I would like to note that this is the process for workplace ergonomics. Remember that we have 3 domains, but this is specific for workplace ergonomics, the process for workplace ergonomics or physical ergonomics. But this is also applicable to other types or domains of ergonomics, not just physical ergonomics. So let's discuss the first step. We have assess risk. This is the first step. So conducting an ergonomic assessment is a foundational element of the ergonomics process. Your ergonomic environment improvement efforts will never get off the ground without being able to effectively assess jobs in your workplace for any skeletal disorder risk factors. So you will really have to diagnose your workplace on which to apply ergonomics to. That's assessing the risk. And then the second step is to plan improvements. So after you have assessed the risk, you have diagnosed the problem, then you have to plan for improvements or plan for the solution. So in planning for improvements, the core goal of the ergonomics process is to make changes to your workplace that reduce that risk. So after you have examined the risk, then you have to think on ways on how to reduce those risks. Making changes at scale requires a significant planning effort that includes prioritizing jobs to be improved, identifying effective improvement ideas, and cost-justifying the improvement projects. So it's like it's like you're a doctor that is diagnosing a problem and then getting your heads in the game and thinking of the solution in order to address that problem. So next we have the third step, which is the measure progress. So in this step, measurement is an important component of any successful continuous improvement process. So we have the so-called high-performing ergonomics programs, which you need to constantly measure using both leading and lagging indicators. So you have to measure um, are the risks that you have identified here after applying the solution, did they improve or not? And in all the ergonomics plans that you had in the past, how have this risk been improved by applying the improvements that you have thought of? Okay, so measurement is the key. And then the last is the scale solutions. By establishing a common set of tools to train your workforce, assess risk, plan improvements, measure progress, and design new work processes, you'll be able to scale ergonomics best practices throughout your organization. Usually, to scale solutions means to have different sets of solutions depending on the size of the situation. Okay, so that is the ergonomics process. From assessing the risk, plan improvements, measuring the progress, scaling the solutions, you have to be an expert in order for you to make that workplace or make something a better one or a better place. It's really about serving other people, making them more comfortable while, having in mind an output or the outcome of what you want to apply or what you want to improve. So now let's proceed to the fifth topic, which is the design principles. When you say design principles, these are widely applicable laws, guidelines, biases, and design considerations which designers apply with discretion. Again, HCI or human to computer interaction is primarily involved in cognitive ergonomics. And in order for a designer to apply cognitive ergonomics in the user interface, we have the so-called design principles. And these design principles, since these are rules or these are laws, you have to abide because this has been well thought of experts who have been in the industry of user interface design for a very long time. They have studied this. They have examined if these principles are effective or not. So this is very helpful, especially for us IT professionals who would at one point or another will be involved in system design, specifically in your thesis in the future, in your development of systems in the future. Okay, so these are fundamental pieces of advice for you to make easy to use and pleasurable designs. This represent the accumulated wisdom of researchers and practitioners in design and related fields. So let's talk about one principle. So one principle is contrast. Okay, so in contrast, it is the difference between various elements within a design that makes them stand out from each other. So this is an example of a design, or you really have to consider the contrast of your background color as well as your content colors. Okay, of course, they must be readable. So we also have balance. Okay, I'm going to be talking about few principles of what is included in this discussion. So we have balance. It is the symmetrical or asymmetrical layout of a user interface. So it can be symmetrical or asymmetrical. So this is an example of a balance where what you see to the left on the left side is balanced on the right side, but it could be, this is an example of a symmetrical balance. We also have the so-called asymmetrical balance where sometimes the bigger portion or the element here on the left is bigger than that of the right, but still it appears to be balanced. So we also have the emphasis. Emphasis causes certain parts of a design to stand out compared to other elements. So here, This is an example of emphasizing a positive primary action. So instead of putting another color on this button, the designer decided um, to make this a subtle link because this is a negative secondary action. So what you want to emphasize is this action of update button. You can also notice this in some of the Google applications or Google systems. So next we have the proportion. It is the size of elements in relation to one another. The larger elements tend to be seen, of course, as more important, while smaller ones are less so. So you have here an example where the picture is much more bigger than that of the content or even of the buttons here, as well as the title is bigger than that of the content of that specific article. So there, that's proportion. Next, we have hierarchy. Hierarchy refers to the importance of elements within a design. The most important element should appear to be the most important and vice versa. Alright, so here's the hierarchy naman of how the eyes or our sight move. Usually it is from left to right, top to bottom. Okay, so you have to consider also that particular principle of the eye movement. Okay, so next we have the repetition. It reinforces an idea or perception. It can be done via things like using same format for headers, reusing the same colors, images, or similar choices. So here is an example. You have a template of the icons as well as the template for the layout of the content. Okay, it should be common all throughout the application. So it should maintain unity of the content and unity of the design. Okay, so these are the other principles which I'm not going to discuss. Okay, because I have already discussed some. I hope that you have read the other principles displayed or presented on this discussion. Okay, so by the way, we have since design principles are advice or rules, pieces of advice, we have examples of these design principles, and one of this is the Jacob Nielsen's 10 design commandments. So let me read the first. Keep users informed of system status with constant feedback. So in this first commandment or in this first principle by Jacob Nielsen, kapag nagdi-design ka daw ng isang user interface, dapat daw alam ng users mo kung anong nangyayari. Kapag prines mo yung button, probably merong movement na nangyayari. Maaaring nag-iiba yung kulay ng text nang hindi naman ganun layo yung pagbabago. Pero you have to keep your users informed about what's happening in the system. If there's an error, if there's anything, kapag hindi siya makapag-register, alam ba niya kung bakit? Okay? Alam ba niya kung bakit may red mark doon? So you have to keep your users informed. Okay? So you have to choose the important aspect of your system on which to apply this. Pero hindi naman overloaded ng information. You can use simple terms, simple phrases for this particular purpose. So the second, set information in a logical or natural order. So it depends on the type of system that you are developing. Kung yan ay for accounting, merong hierarchy. But usually if that is a website, the homepage should be the first in the menu. Right? So, depende dun sa system or sa application na dine-develop mo or dine-design mo yung logic at yung order ng mga information doon. Okay, so Sige, let's discuss the third one. Ensure users can easily undo or redo actions. So, halimbawa, nakapag-delete siya ng item pero hindi naman niya sinasadya, dapat may ability yung system mo para i-undo yung mga pangyayaring yun. Like, sa Google Drive, kapag na-delete mo yung isang file, pwede kang pumunta sa trash. Or pwede mong i-undo yung pag-delete na yun kung sakaling aksidente yung pag-delete mo, yung action na ginawa mo. So, there are several others. So, 10 ito. Mali lang yung numbering. And you can study this. At kapag nagde-design ka na, ito yung prinsipyo, ito yung mga commandments na sundin mo sa pagde-design or pagde-develop mo ng system. You can use this, the Jacob Nielsen's design, especially sa thesis nyo or kung ano man yung system na dine-develop ninyo. So next, we have the design guidelines. Ang design guidelines naman are sets of recommendations on how to apply design principles to provide a positive user experience. So ito, para mas maging maliwanag sa atin yung design, yung pagkakaiba, ang design principle, ito yung halimbawa niya. If the rule is to provide plain language error messages to pinpoint problems and likely solutions, plain language daw yung mga error messages, ang design guideline mas specific. Ito naman, binibigyan mo siya ng idea paano i-apply sa design principle. Ito yung halimbawa ng guideline. Write large lettered jargon-free text in web-safe font. Use short sentences and draw users' attention to causes and remedies. So this is a more general principle, while the guideline is the more specific action to apply that specific principle. Ngayon, yung design rule, mas specific to because this is an example. So let me read. Use 20-point black Georgia on lavender background. So nakalagay pa yung hexa equivalent. Put instructions in bold. So if the principle is the more general and the guideline is the specific application of that principle, the design rule is the more specific interpretation of the principle. So we have here examples of user interface platform guidelines. Okay, so meron tayo dyang yung mga interface platform guidelines, it's readily available. Yeah, readily available siya. For example, for the Apple Mac OS, the iOS, the Eclipse User Interface Guidelines, Genome, Google Android Design, meaning you can learn from Apple Mac OS, you can learn from Apple iOS, how they design, what are the principles that they are following. So all you have to do is go there and read it for yourself and then apply whatever you have read or you have understood, and if it's applicable for your design, then go ahead. Okay, so learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. Okay, so you just have to know the principles, some guidelines, and then as you continuously and constantly apply the principles, all the more that you can see that you are improving in the skill of designing. Okay, so we have here the design guidelines, the sample design guidelines, some other examples. For the use of color in screen displays, ibig sabihin, paano gumamit ng kulay sa screen display. Ito, pag-usapan natin yung una, limit the number of colors to 4 per screen. So, yung nakikita mo daw kulay sa isang screen should be limited to only 4 colors, white, black, violet, etc. Pero, the principle is 4 lang daw. Pero all throughout the whole sequence daw ng screens, limit it to 7. For unhighlighted information, use unobtrusive pale color. So, yung mga highlighted information, mas bolder yung color na gamitin mo as compared to the unhighlighted information. Ano ba yung mga highlighted information? Yung heading, siguro yung content, yung pictures, pero yung sitemap, yung website map, kalimitan, unhighlighted information siya, kaya mas pale yung color na ginagamit mo dun sa font color, dun sa font niya. Okay, so you can read other design guidelines, and this is very helpful if you would make yourself well versed on this guidelines. So this is let me show you some of the user interface that I have found online. This is Hello Monday. As you can see, what I want to highlight here is the white space. When elements fight for attention, nothing can stand out, right? So when there is a spotlight on one element, such as this one or the title, it can truly shine. Surrounding UI elements with white space allow the message of the element to sink in. So what can you notice on this particular interface is this picture, the title, the subtitle, the name of the website, this particular element here, and as well as the menu on this side. So really the elements stand out. They don't fight for the spotlight. So white space is something that the Hello Monday Creative Studio homepage have mastered perfectly. Featuring micro and macro empty spaces, the Hello Monday website allows the user to focus on one feature at a time while still delivering heaps of meaning to the user. Okay, so we also have here the color palette. So this particular mobile application, what you can notice is that this application is actually created for teenagers. Okay, so this is current. And this is a parent-controlled debit card and corresponding app aimed at promoting good financial decisions and demystifying financial responsibility. With their key demographic in mind, the designers behind the app have redefined the stiff and stuffy stereotype of finance with bright colors, cool fonts, and unique backgrounds. Despite the daunting subject matter, the app boasts a simple and straightforward UI, clearly identifying tasks, budgets, and actions to take. So it's simpler, and yet you would notice that it's bright and it is user friendly since the target users are teenagers. So this one is we're going to take a look at the Spotify UI. What's good about the Spotify is their color gradients. Okay, so it doesn't just contain a plain color, but the gradients, okay, of how the colors flow. So it's no secret that color gradients are becoming ever more favored by UI designers over flat colors. Powerful when used intentionally, color gradients are a go-to when the need to convey emotions or highlight a certain design element arises. Alongside boasting an extensive music collection, of course, it's Spotify, household brand Spotify has demonstrated effective use of color gradients that make the app even more fun to use. So usually they will use dark color background, and then the buttons are usually green with the white font color of that button. Okay, so let me show you the top 5 UI or UX design trends by Coberto, the tips. Okay, so let us watch this video.
From the first days since the company's foundation, we have been helping our customers solve the problems of their business, create new brands and digital products. Coberto is the Agency of the Year 2019 according to awards. We are in the top 10 most popular world design communities. We work with the largest companies around the world and even conduct our own design courses to share our experience further. Today, we'll give several simple tips for the designers. Animation and UI. We often face a situation where startups want to stand out on the market of mobile applications, particularly by trying to replicate design and animations that they can't handle. Levels of such animation can vary from awesome to boring. But as a rule, what we get in the end is boring anyway, especially when the design stage is performed by one team and the development is done by another. Therefore, we highly recommend developing awesome animations with those who really have the qualification. Photo content in UI. Have you ever noticed how photo content can affect your perception? Here's a simple eye tracker test. If you place a photo of a girl over the text, the girl immediately draws attention. If the girl gestures to the text or button, then the text is what you will look at first. This simple test shows how important it is to put emphasis on the interface correctly. Work with fonts. Generally, working with fonts is a separate question. 95% of designers work with a universal set of fonts, using them in different design layouts. This is rational, where you have little experience and no time to experiment. Therefore, when you see a layout with fresh fonts, it immediately attracts attention. For example, the most popular question we get is, what font do you use? Light UI versus dark UI. Here's another mini eye tracking experiment with dark and light interfaces, which in this case was performed on multifunctional dashboards. As you can see, attention is carried on the light interface and all functional areas are equally involved. On the dark dashboard, attention is more focused on functional elements. We can very easily adjust the priority of these elements on the dark UI by placing the necessary accents. Generally, the choice of color depends on many factors and product themes. Light UI is much easier for our perception, therefore we come across this version more often, but in some cases, dark UI is necessary. Unified pictogram style. You know that in 2009, Cuberto specialized exclusively in icon design. We drew icons for applications, gift icons for social networks, icon sets for various graphic editors, trading platforms, hosting companies, and much more. Now we are drawing icons as part of various interfaces, and this is only a small part of the total amount of work. But one thing remains unchanged: the compliance with a uniform style of icons within a given set. Designers don't always pay attention to this and make icons in mixed styles, adjusting them to the environment where they will be displayed.
So there you have watched the several tips, UI or UX design tips by Cuberto. So now let's talk about the icon representation and design. Icon is a very important aspect of a system or an application, whether it is a web or desktop application or a mobile application. Icon is really something to be smart about. So let's discuss the different types of icons. So uh, there are several types of icons. So we have the resemblance, exemplar, symbolic, and arbitrary. When you say resemblance, these are the icons that are analogous and depict the objects that they represent. So whatever is in the icon, it is also the same on its meaning. Okay. So we have here exemplar. An exemplar icon is where the representations of an object that represents the concept, usually of high complexity. So it's too complex to be an icon. So if that is the case, then that is an exemplar icon. So we also have the symbolic icon, which represents concepts that are higher level abstractions of an idea than what the image depicts. So that is symbolic of the meaning of that particular icon. While the arbitrary, this is quite different because it has no physical or analogous correspondence or connection with the image depicted and must be learned to understand its meaning. So these are examples of icons. Okay, some of them are exemplar, symbolic, arbitrary, or resemblance icons. Okay, so you have to really think about the type of icon or the icon that you're going to use. For example, this icon is what to use in the map for a specific location. Okay, and also icons have different palettes. Some icons you can play with colors, but some icons you have common colors for all for that particular icon family. Okay, so this one we know that this is for calls, right? And some others it signifies a little quite complicated meaning. Okay, so that's it for our discussion. Do you have any questions? Do you have any clarifications or any violent reactions or any comments? You can unmute or raise your hand, and I'm going to entertain any questions that you may have. So that's it for our discussion for today. Thank you so much for listening.